A very lovely... welcome, Helen, how are you?
I'm very well, and I'm looking forward to the rant.
Oh, God. Two things. Rishi Sunak today has intervened in a row between Kemi Badenoch and the actor David Tennant. I know David Tennant, I'll tell you why in a second. He suggested at the British LGBT Awards last week that he wanted a world where the Equalities Minister, a lady, doesn't exist anymore, and she, love, should just shut up. Have a watch, have a listen, people. This is David Tennant, ex-Doctor Who.
I suppose, if I'm honest, I'm a little depressed by the fact that acknowledging that everyone has the right to be who they want to be and live their life how they want to live it, as long as they're not hurting anyone else, should merit any kind of special award or special mention, because it's common sense, isn't it? It is human decency. We shouldn't live in a world where that is worth remarking on. However, until we wake up and Kemi Badenoch doesn't exist anymore, I don't wish ill of her, I just wish her to shut up.
I mean, if I could just say, Helen, I mean, if you, in a work environment, when I say you, me, if I went up to Jodie and went, do you know what? I wish you didn't exist anymore. I wish you'd shut your liver, puddly and gob. Quite rightly, I'd be in trouble. So how can these lovies get away with it then?
Well, I don't know why everyone's so surprised. They've been getting away with saying this about women who stand up for women's rights for years. I mean, look at the stars from the Harry Potter franchise talking about J.K. Rowling. I mean, basically what they're saying is she's an old witch, she's past it, her belief that there are two sexes, you know, it's massive bigotry, why doesn't she shut up? I don't know if they ever used the phrase shut up, but they meant it. And people do say this sort of thing about politicians, but what we've got here, and I don't want to bring her race or her sex into it, my point is that she's the Minister for Women and Equalities. It's actually her job.
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to ask you a question, not because I'm disagreeing with you, but because I'm not scared to go there, because I work on a station that is prepared to do so. I want to ask you a question. Does it stick in the craw of the lovies like Tennant that not only Kemi Badenoch's a woman, but she's a black woman and she's risen to the top of her profession and she doesn't spout the usual BS that they would presume that she would. And in fact, she speaks common sense, which is why many people believe she will be the next leader of the Tory party. I suspect that sticks in their craw, doesn't it, Helen?
I'll have to leave that to you, Jeremy. I work for a charity and I can't comment like that in the run-up to an election.
Just annoys me. A woman standing up for women's right. Completely agree with you about J.K. Rowling. I'll make all those little idiots, you know, I'll make them very, very successful. And because they don't agree with my opinion, I'm cancelled. I'm ostracised. That's the whole thing.
Join the club.
It's so bad, isn't it? It's so bad.
Yeah. What bothers me about this is that Tennant didn't actually... Well, there's two things that bother me about it. One is that he didn't say why he says this. So, like a lot of actors and people in the media, Tennant has a child who identifies as non-binary. I wouldn't normally talk about people's children, but he posts and his wife posts on Instagram about this child who is a primary age boy who identifies as non-binary and is a they/them. I'm not interested in other people's family lives, but obviously what he's living at home doesn't go with the facts that Kemi Badenoch says, namely that there are two sexes and it's not possible to not have a sex. So that's, I think, what's really going on here. But the second thing is this, you know, everyone can be what they want to be. Well, how about if I want to be a woman who has the right to single-sex spaces? I mean, if a man wants to be a woman, then suddenly I can't have them anymore. That's the bait and switch here. Oh, he's so reasonable, and she's so unreasonable for saying that there are two sexes and that men can't be women.
But
no,
you see, to me, Helen, and it's so good to have you on, to me that's the bigger argument. And I was talking about how I had this discussion stroke argument with my 21-year-old. And I said, I love the fact, right, that you've got different views and your generation thinks differently. But I'll have to die before I start telling you and apologising for what your grandparents taught me. Why is it that if you are not apparently in tune with the latest Gen Z activist trait, that you should be cancelled, silenced, humiliated and put down? It's not balanced. A democracy means all sides of every argument, doesn't it?
Yeah, young people seem to care a lot less about free speech than older ones do, which is very worrying because free speech and academic freedom are the best recipe that we've ever found for actually solving humanity's problems. That's how we come to solutions, especially in a multicultural society like ours. But also, I think people have misunderstood what's going on here. Like this theory that there are more than two sexes or sex is a spectrum or whatever, it's like a religion. It's a belief system.
Yeah.
And we know how to cope with belief systems. You believe what you want, but I'm not playing along. It's not my belief. And if I could just say to them that, if I could just say, look, you want to believe there's such a thing as non-binary, I don't, then we could all be happy together.
And you're so right, okay, when you say, and I quote, a woman like J.K. Rowling and a woman like Kemi Badenoch sticking up for women's rights gets absolutely slaughtered. So all the people that are sticking up for non-binary, trans, whatever, I don't even know what it means, that's good. I support that, but not to the detriment of everything else. Let me give you another one. I'm going to throw this at you. I've just got past this, okay? This is in the Times. Oh, God. Police have been criticised today for describing a transgender woman who attacked a woman after a night out as a person convicted of rape. Now, unless I'm wrong, that was a bloke raping a woman. But because he chooses to live as a transgender woman, the bloody police are too scared to say man rapes woman. The police say, to keep everybody sweet, person convicted of rape. I despair, Helen. I said I was going to rant. I didn't think I'd be turning into my father on national radio, but Jesus, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Oh, completely ridiculous. This is what I spend my days doing now, and I'm afraid that the rot has gone very far. Like, the courts do this too. The courts will, you know, run a whole trial against a rapist and call him she. I mean, we saw this in Scotland with this character Isla Bryson, double rapist, convicted, wanted to go to women's jail, and everyone's writing she. And you read that and you think, well, what's wrong with that woman going to a women's jail? She's a woman. Because you're saying she and woman. So no, we've got to go back to calling men and women, and then it's clear what we're talking about.
The story in Scotland, I was doing breakfast. I mean, I'm going to get into trouble. He raped two women. And then put on a pair of leggings which showed his lunchbox and walked down the street in a wig pretending he was a woman to go to a woman's jail. That is ludicrous. And for all the people who go, oh, that's being disrespectful. I'll tell you what's being disrespectful is being raped by a man who thinks he can get away with the consequences of raping a woman by putting a dress on and getting an easy ride. That's completely wrong. And the police, take a breath, the police are so scared of upsetting people. And that's why I have such admiration for the J.K. Rowling, because she says what she believes. I don't care if you disagree with J.K. Rowling, but at least she's got a pair big enough to say what she thinks in a world where so many aren't.
The main thing I'd say about somebody like J.K. Rowling is that she's the kind one. People say, oh, be kind, you're being very unkind. I get called unkind all the time, when all I'm saying is men can't be women. Which, you know, until a half a second ago, nobody thought they could be women.
You get called unkind. You get called unkind.
And much worse.
Do you?
But yes, they say be kind, you know. But the thing is, what's unkind is saying that a rapist can go into women's jail. It's unkind to say that men can compete in women's sports. It's unkind to tell children lies that deceive those children and that might put them on the path to medicalisation. All these things are very unkind, but for years and years, lobbyists like Stonewall have managed to push the idea that these things are kind and that people like me are the unkind ones. Well, all I'm doing is just saying, you know, there is reality. If I could wave a magic wand, then maybe I would, but I can't. And, you know, reality is reality. It's men who rape, it's not women.
Honestly, I've got to tell you this. Every person I speak to at Sex Matters, and I mean this with my hand on my heart, talks common sense. And that's the point. I tried having this debate the other day, Helen, and I said, you know, in my old days of doing the other show, I spoke to plenty of people who said to me they felt they were born in the wrong body. You can't say that, you're being disrespectful. No, listen, just seriously, right? It's such a contentious subject, but to be able to have you speak with such clarity and say, I mean, Isla Bryson is the perfect example. That dreadful story about the police. If a man rapes a woman, right, he's a rapist. He should face the consequences, not put on a dress and go to a women's prison because apparently it'll be an easier time. I love everybody at Sex Matters. I love the fact that you all speak such common sense, and thank you so much for coming on. That is Helen Joyce. Brilliant.